Hey guys, welcome to episode numero 3 of Real and Raw Conversations with Shalina. Today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Tricia, and she is a anorexia survivor, author, and businesswoman, and we're going to be having a chat about her journey. But before we do that, let me do an acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture, the hopes and dreams of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and elders, past, present, and emerging. For it is their land on which I work, live, love, and conduct business. And it is their continuing connection to land, water, sea, and community that I will always recognize and uphold. I am committed to and will continue to celebrate, honor, and respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's stories, culture, and traditions, as well as their unique cultural and spiritual relationships to country. Sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was and forever will be Aboriginal land. So, without further ado, I am going to bring Tricia on screen and we are going to have a chat. Hello.
Hi. How are you, Shalina?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. This topic of, body image and anorexia, I think it's something that we need to talk about more often. And it's not something that I see is as widely discussed as I believe it should be. And in my community, the Indian community, I know that there are probably so many ladies who are going through body image issues. And I think that this would be an amazing conversation to break down barriers and open up doors. So I'm so excited to have you on the show and just talk about your journey and everything that you've been through, just to inspire people that, there are so many things you can do in your life and nothing can hold you back. So I'm so excited to have you on the show. So I want to start with your journey with anorexia, and I wanted to ask, what were the first signs for you? How did you start noticing, or how did somebody start noticing that you had anorexia? What happened and what were the first signs?
Right. Well, when I was in college, I was a sophomore in college. I became really depressed. I was struggling with feeling like I was achieving enough. I had a family that had really high expectations, and even when I'd make what I felt to be good grades, they'd be like, okay, well, how can you do it better? So I struggled with that, and it made me really depressed. Like I just felt like I could never be enough or do enough, or succeed or accomplish enough. So I struggled with that, and like that work, I won't call it school life balance, I guess. Yeah. And so somehow in my mind, I decided that, well, if I were really fit and trim, well, not somehow, one person kind of spurred it for me. I was dating this guy and he was really into fitness. He was like, well, you could work out. You could do this, you could do X, Y, Z. That would be awesome. And so I got it in my mind that, oh, that was the answer. That's what I needed. So I started working out. I started dieting and restricting my food. And I did get trimmer, and within a couple of months, I got a lot trimmer though. Like I lost 20 pounds within a couple of months. And when I went back home, my parents freaked out. What is going on with, all my friends at school were like, wow, at first they were definitely like, oh, you look so good. It's so great that you're exercising, you're working out all the time. And I was having a lot of fun with that. I mean, it was a lot more attention. It was attainable goals. It was something that I was achieving rather than feeling like I wasn't making the mark. But then my parents, they totally freaked out when I got home and when I was so thin, and they made me go to counseling, and I didn't find that beneficial just because it was a forced thing. But really, when I decided that when I realized that it was a real problem, was at a point where I was too thin and I didn't have enough energy, and I it was taking me out of my life. Like I was trying to go out and do things with my friends, but I was always worried about, oh, what are they going to eat? Or I don't want to eat what they're eating. But I don't want to look weird not eating what they're eating. So then I just started backing away from my friends and not doing social things. And that wasn't achieving anything for me. So I didn't want to be that way anymore. But then I realized it couldn't stop. Like I was just all the time preoccupied with those thoughts of, well, I'm not going to eat this and I can't eat this and I have to exercise a certain number of hours a day, or I just didn't feel like I was safe, or I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So then it just brought me more and more out of my friendships and away from society, and to where I was isolating more and more. And it was just that recognition of, I can't stop this. I mentally could not stop myself from thinking about it. But I still, even at that point, I still wasn't ready to give it up and to get the help that I needed.
Yeah, you make an interesting point about being forced into therapy and counseling. You know, when people are forced into it, you don't want to go because it wasn't your own decision to do that. So did you end up actually seeing somebody at the time that you were forced? Were you able to speak to them, or were you sort of hesitant because that was forced upon you?
Well, I had to go. My parents drove me. And even though I was like 19 years old, my parents drove me there. And I had to talk to the person for like an hour a week. And supposedly I was telling them what I was eating, and I wrote it all down, and I lied about the whole thing. And I mean, you're 19, you're not going to listen to what people tell you to do. And it wasn't a fun experience, but I just got through it. So,
yeah. What do you think led you to this condition? What do you think happened? Or maybe was it something in your life when you were younger, or just at that point that happened that led you to this?
Right. Well, I'd always been very hard on myself. I wasn't a person that like accepted faults or failure. And I don't know if, now having a daughter that kind of follows those tendencies as well, I see that it's, not maybe nature more than nurture, but sometimes it's nurture. Like I said, my parents were very strict, and they were always expecting very high standards and a certain level of achievement. So I think both of those played into me just thinking that I wasn't enough and I wasn't doing enough. And I was defining myself by what I achieved rather than just somebody who was a person who was could just be whoever I was, whether I like music or, those things weren't acceptable. So I think that's really what pushed me to go to more of an eating disorder rather than having a drug problem, because drugs or alcohol would have been a great escape too, but that would not have been acceptable in my family. That would have been very taboo. So, I kind of call it the goody two shoes road, but it's really all about control and trying to control my environment and how I felt about myself. But once I got in the middle of it, I couldn't get myself out of it. Like I had reprogrammed my brain to think I had to do, act in certain ways every day. It was like an addictive habit that I couldn't stop.
Wow. Do you think that if your parents may not have been so strict, do you think this could have been something that may not have happened or been preventable, or it's hard to decipher what that could have been?
Decipher, but I grew up in a family that wasn't very open with our feelings.
Right.
And if something went wrong in our family, if something happened, like the next day, you didn't even talk about it. You didn't even acknowledge it. And so not to be able to talk about, hey, I had a bad day, or even like we'd sit around the dinner table and my dad would say, oh, I think X. And as a teenager, you think, oh, I'm going to have my own opinion. And I would say, well, I think Y. And it wasn't, oh, why do you think that? It was like, you're talking back. That's not okay. Like it was, you just didn't have a different opinion from your parents. And you didn't talk about real things. And that, I mean, even now it's hard for me to, I force myself to do it. but it's not a natural thing. We just didn't talk about it. And so, I spent years and years just living with all these feelings and things that had happened in my family, and I didn't have anyone to talk about them with. I was ashamed of them. And it just grew and grew until, I think I got into a relationship that wasn't very healthy. And I think that triggered me more than anything else. Like, it triggered memories of things that happened in the past. And even though I was able to get out of it, I was never able to get out of it in my head. Like, I was still that person that was sad and lonely and scared and all of those things.
Wow. I totally resonate with you. It's when you have to suppress your emotions, like for me, it comes out on me physically. If I'm suppressing how I feel, I literally feel like I've got a chest pain when I have to do that. And that itself can lead to trauma and PTSD, not being able to express how you feel. I think it stays with you for life because you feel like your feelings are not welcome, like your thoughts are not welcome. Did you feel like that? Did you feel like your thoughts may not have been welcome if you tried to voice it? Did it carry on for you? Like, even to this day, do you sometimes feel like that?
Very much so. I mean, not so much now as, an adult, a couple of decades later. And in the culture I've tried to build for myself and my family, but sometimes definitely, I mean, I'll just second guess myself and say, oh, well, no, just keep going with that. And you're not going to share that. You're just going to keep going. I mean, definitely even with, so with some people I probably can never have that relationship with. It wouldn't be safe, but with my safe people, I definitely have that relationship.
Yeah, no, it's always good to have safe people. And I like the term safe people because I feel like I've got that as well. There's a few safe people I can talk to, and others it's like, oh, I don't think you're the right person to talk to this about. So when you were going through the condition, what were the thoughts going through in your mind? What were some of the thoughts that you lived with maybe on a daily basis or fluctuated in your mind?
Well, I just decided that if I looked a certain way and I acted a certain way and I presented myself a certain way, then people would like me and that they would think positively and I would attract people that way. So, by dieting and, in whatever messed up way it was, by looking thin and being thin, that was an appropriate and approved way to look. And that's really how I thought it was. It's very sad to think about now that really I only wanted to value myself by that one metric. That's the only value I put on what I was doing. No matter, I even made really good grades that semester. I couldn't believe it. Like, I made dean's list at my school.
Wow.
I was a crazy person. I was studying and I was working out, and that's all I did, I guess. I don't really remember it, but I made dean's list. And so, by all other counts in my life, nobody would have, when it first started, nobody would have known. Like, I put on such a facade, nobody would have known anything was wrong because, I was going out with my friends. I was getting good grades. I was being social, probably more social than I'd been the whole college experience. And, And
you sort of learn to cover it up in a way. I think it's like even maybe sometimes with drug addictions or alcohol addictions, it's the same thing. Nobody can tell. And then suddenly people are like, whoa, I didn't see that one coming type of thing. So what was your relationship with food and exercise like before you were sort of diagnosed? What type of relationship did you have?
Well, before I started my disease and before I decided that, dieting was the answer to all my problems, of course, I was pretty normal. I weighed a normal weight. I did things normally like my college friends did. We drank. I didn't drink heavily, but, we'd go to parties and drink just like other college students did. And so it was really pretty normal. So it was very, I don't know. I just got it in my head. That was the answer. And
I can resonate with that. It's sort of a random thing as well, that it just comes into your head and that sort of I don't know, ends up being part of your journey and you wouldn't expect it, but it becomes maybe did it feel like it had become like a normality for you once you had those thoughts in your mind?
Oh, definitely. It was, I woke up and I was going to eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And it was just my habit and my schedule, and
Yeah.
it was normal.
Yeah. Yeah. How did your friends and family come to know about this or find out about this?
Well, yeah, like I said, so it was spring semester. I was in college, and obviously my friends noticed some weight loss, but when it first started, and I think even for a couple months, they didn't really notice or say anything. And then I left and I went home for the summer, and my parents were very shocked. And so they put me in counseling, and they were trying to get me help and talk to me. And but I was still faking it. And the one meal a day I ate with them was with them, and that was it. So I could kind of hide what was going on, or try to get the impression that I was getting better, just trying to get back to school because my relationship with my parents wasn't good. And then when I went back to school in the fall, I just told all my friends I got sick. Like, I told them I got really sick, and I don't even know. They probably didn't believe me either. I mean, it was so obvious after the fact, looking back, I'm sure. And several of them approached me and were trying to help. And my parents were requiring me to see a counselor at school.
Yeah.
So I was seeing her and lying to her about what I was doing. Yeah, and I had this one friend, who really tried to reach out, and I feel sad after the fact, and you feel guilty that, these people were right there and they wanted to help, but I just wasn't at a place where I could let them help.
Yeah. And so after that, there would have been maybe some sort of turning point for you. What was that? What was the turning point for you when you're like, hang on a second, I actually need to do something about this, and I actually need to go help? How did that unfold?
Yeah, it happened, like, I knew, like I said, for months that I couldn't stop what I was doing. Like, physically and mentally, I could not make myself eat a healthy meal.
Yeah.
I could not keep from exercising 2 hours a day. But the day that I went into treatment, I had tried to eat something, and my body just, it couldn't take it because it wasn't used to it. And my heart started racing. And then the next couple of seconds, it slowed down really slow. Like, I would count 5 seconds between heartbeats. Like, it was just,
wow.
My body was just shutting down. And I didn't have any like of the correct electrolytes in my system. So
Yeah.
my nervous system wasn't working right. And I called my friend, and she took me to the health center. And the doctor there, she was not really a nice person. She was pretty harsh, but basically she told me she couldn't help me, and that I had done this to myself, and that it was up to me to fix it. And really, I mean, it was cruel, but at the same time, there was a lot of truth in that, because I had chosen made a lot of those choices. And I was just trying to get away from all those feelings of depression. And and that was my coping mechanism. And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, I'm not going to let this happen to me. I am going to fight to get better. So even though it was harsh and I hated the lady at the time, it was probably exactly what I needed to hear when I needed it. Yeah.
I guess they call that tough love.
Yes, a very tough love.
So do you feel that you received the help and support that you needed at that time, or do you feel like anything could have been different in terms of the help and the support that you received?
No, I was really lucky. I mean, the counselor I'd been seeing and lying to, she ended up actually being pretty nice once I took
She wasn't nice doing counseling?
I know. Once I took a realistic look at her, and wasn't trying to fight her and lie to her all the time. So she helped me find an inpatient program. And so I went into an inpatient program and was able to stay there a couple of days and just get healthier, because your brain really doesn't work with no food. So just getting some semblance of being able to think logically about my life and where I needed to go. And then from the inpatient program, going to like a halfway program where I was in day treatment with people with other eating disorders and addictions. And then I lived with a group of people that were recovering from eating disorders as well. So, and I had a psychologist, I had a therapist, I had group therapy, had so many things. I went to Overeaters Anonymous, which was a great support group. And so I felt like I just left school, I entered treatment, and I got help. I mean, it wasn't cheap either, which is the hard part. There are services that are not as expensive, like Overeaters Anonymous. You can always go and get support, and there are always helplines. So, yeah.
And during the time that you were going through the treatment, how are you feeling sort of mentally and physically at that time? What were the thoughts maybe running through your mind?
At first, I just felt like I ruined my life. Like the lady said, I did this to myself. I'd ruined my life. Now I had to drop out of school. I was really scared as to whether I would ever get back to school and have a normal life, and what my friends probably hated me, and all those feelings of shame, depression, and just feeling like it was almost hopeless. But the thing was, like, I had people there telling me, well, just put one foot in front of the other and do the next right thing. And it was good to see other people in recovery, because at least you could see people that were further along the journey than you, so that you could see things to get better, and they were going to get better. So that was helpful.
Yeah. Were you sort of blaming was it like self-victimization or self-blame? Did you go through a lot of that while you were in therapy?
It was 100% that. I was not easy on myself, because, I mean, obviously there are other factors. I could have had better relationships with my parents. I think my parents, like me, grew up in households where you didn't talk about things. It was the South. So you just didn't talk about your dirty laundry, quote unquote, and even with your family, you didn't talk about it. You just didn't. So I think that's the way they grew up as well. So I don't think they had those abilities either. So there was a lot of things to talk about with my family. There's a lot of things to talk about with just overcoming the thought that I didn't need to achieve things in order to be seen as valuable, that I was just valuable just because I was a person, not because of a grade I made or a degree I achieved or something I checked off a box.
And that's a really important point about generational trauma and that generational cycle, that it sort of gets passed down from, parents to children, and they don't speak. It's like, having a table talk every week or every couple of days with your children to ask them how they are would benefit them so much, I think, with their mental health. And I think that it needs to be done, just to that check-in as a parent, it's more so as a friend rather than a parent. How is everything going? And it's so important as parents to do that. And I find that even in my own culture, the Indian culture, there's that notion of what will people think, and they're always worried about what will people think. Oh, if my child has whatever condition or disorder, what will people think, and how am I going to explain it? And I think maybe they get scared that they themselves are going to be blamed for it, even though that's not exactly directly their fault, but indirectly it is. I guess that's how I see it. Obviously, not everybody will agree with my view, but that's what I'm thinking. So can I ask, what is your relationship with food and exercise now? What is it like now for you?
Right. Well, it's very healthy. I mean, I love running and I love hiking. I love doing stuff outdoors. So I definitely have that routine. And part of that is my me time. Psychology needed everyday time. But as far as eating, I eat normally. I definitely treat my disease like an addiction. I don't skip meals. Because I just feel like, and that's the way I was taught in recovery. And not everybody goes to the same type of recovery for anorexia. I mean, I think there are different schools of thought, but definitely the one I went to was like, this is more of an addiction and you're going to treat it like an addiction, or you don't get, you have to heal the physical part as well as the mental part. So I eat 3 meals a day, no matter what. And then I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, because you're
not thinking about it is the freedom, right? You shouldn't live your life thinking about the next meal you're going to eat. So, yeah.
Do you feel that anorexia has a taboo associated with it? The word, and do you ever feel like that when people mention the word, or when you mention the word?
I definitely did, especially during and early in recovery, and probably for several years after. I don't as much now, but maybe it's because I talk about it so much. Like, I mentioned on my Facebook page, my friends know that I raise money for National Eating Disorders Association every year. So I think the more I talk about it, the less taboo it feels. But it definitely was something that, it's odd. Even I have a friend who I was just helping her with her child, and her child was having some problems, and she was like, I just don't understand it. And I'm like, no, it's not understandable. It makes no sense whatsoever.
When you have intrusive thoughts come into your mind at any time of the day or night, how do you cope and manage that?
Really, I try to focus on, number one, being grateful. So like if I'm thinking negatively, or I'm thinking I'm not enough, or I'm worried about what the outcome of something is, so I focus on gratitude, number one, and seeing like where I'm being grateful for how far I've come. And that's a lot of positivity there too, and what I have now. So even grateful that, I have my health now. I am able to go out and run and hike with my friends and have good relationships and all those things that are tangible today. And I think staying present is gratitude, looking at things from a rational perspective, not a off skill, and then just being positive too, and being present. Like for today, I am. And if you can name for today, I am. And there may be some negative things in that I am, but you can say, okay, that's how I am. It's acceptable. And we can just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when I get intrusive thoughts, it's hard to push it away, but I find I just even distract myself or get onto YouTube. I'm kind of addicted to going on YouTube and just binge watching like whatever I can find. So onto something a bit more positive now. What were some of the goals that you achieved during your journey that you once upon a time you were like, I don't even know if I can do this, or it just felt impossible to you? What were some of the goals, and how did you end up achieving it?
Right. Well, as I said, I had to leave school, and I didn't have a lot of savings for school in the first place, but then all of the money I'd saved for school went into my recovery. So the doctors, the treatment centers. So when I got out of that, I had nothing. And my parents sort of gave me a choice. They said, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, then we'll support you. But if not, then you're on your own. So I said, huh? Well, and I knew X, Y, and Z wasn't what was healthy for me. It was keeping me tied to them and that was a lot of my problem. Like I needed to decide and because I just kind of went along with what they told me to do. And I wanted to please them. So I did that, but it really wasn't what was right for me and what I needed to do for myself as a 19 and 20-year-old. So yeah, I decided that I was going to go out on my own. I got my own apartment. I got a job. I started working full time, and I got a job in my field because I wanted to go into science. So I was able to get a lab job. I called do you have yellow pages there?
Yes, we do.
I don't even know what the yellow pages are. But back in the day, we had these phone books that were like this thick, and they were yellow pages. So I called like every chemistry company in the city to get a job. So I finally got a job. I got a full-time job, and then I went back to school part-time. I put myself through school, and I ended up getting a Master of Science degree and I wanted to be in research, so I did that. So yeah, just worked really hard. I'd always wanted to do that from when I was in high school, and I was going to do it for myself, more to prove to myself that I could than anything else. Maybe I was kind of crazy then too. I mean, I was working and going to school as well, so that was also very stressful, but I needed to move forward. I needed to keep moving forward, I think. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Were there times when you sort of felt like, stop the boat, I want to get off for a bit, or feeling scared, or feeling like you were going, not fail, but maybe fail, or just you were just, I guess, scared? Were there times where you were scared
I
about?
was scared. I think I was scared all the time. I don't think there was, I think it took like years for me not to be scared.
Yeah.
I think when I got into graduate school, I wasn't as scared then, because I got a stipend and I got a grant or a scholarship to go to school, and I was making money, and I wasn't as scared then. I felt like I'd kind of arrived then, but definitely throughout my undergrad, I was scared all the time because I was living month to month, basically, with paying for school and my car and my apartment and all of those things. So talk about, your anxiety coming out in different ways. I used to have these heart palpitation anxiety attacks because I was taking like 2 classes and working full time, and yeah, it was just crazy.
Oh, that is so much to juggle on one plate. And so many people do it. They study and they work, and I'm the anxious type. I feel like I can't do 2 things at once. If I'm stressed over uni, I'm not able to do my best at work. And that heart palpitation, I've been there when I was doing my degree. It is just, it's daunting. But at the end of the day, that there's a goal, that there's something you really wanted. And, I guess the ends justify the means, as they say, when you're going through something like that. And you're an author as well, which is so amazing. When did you turn to writing, and how did it help you? What did you write about? How did it help you, and when did you turn to it?
Right. It was about 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, that I actually started writing. I had a high school reunion coming up, and I think I just started thinking about like my past and those friendships, and then my college friendships, and everything I had been through. And for better or for worse, I started writing this story. I guess it was for better. I would say that. Yes, it is for better. That I became obsessed. That's why I said for worse. I kind of became obsessed. I think you can see this trend of obsessive, going over the top a little bit. Anyway, so yeah, I started writing this story about a girl in college who developed anorexia, and it was very much like writing a screenplay or a soap opera, a series in the beginning. Like it was fun to write because she fell in love with one boy and then another boy, and it was more than, and maybe part of it was wanting to normalize it. Like, this happens to normal people. This happens to just people that you would not even guess had any problems in their lives whatsoever. Yeah, she was a normal girl. She too had a family who had high expectations, but part of that is normal sometimes in my society. So in some societies, some of that is normal. You have high expectations, and so anyway, she ends up getting assaulted, not sexually assaulted, but assaulted, and she has to deal with that. And then she turns to coping with her feelings by restricting her food. But the story is really about her recovery. I mean, it's her going through that, but also about her recovery and her journey to figure out who she is and what she wants in life. So.
Wow. And
my husband would say I was obsessed too, because I would write, like, instead of like watching Netflix or something like that, I would be typing away. It was like my little story in my head. So
I can resonate with that. I'm constantly writing something, and it's always at the worst time. Like for me, it's like I'll think of something during the shower, you're in the toilet, you're driving, and it's like, why now? Like, why couldn't these thoughts come when I'm actually present and awake, or half the time when I'm half asleep, I get thoughts in my mind. And I have to start writing it down. Where can people find your book, or your books rather?
Yeah. So my author website is triciacopeland.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you name it. Wherever you like to be is where I am.
I love that. Wherever you like to be.
The series about Amanda, who is my fictional character who develops anorexia, is called the Being Me series. And it starts with the book, Is This Me? So.
Wow. And what would you say is your message to people around the world who are, think they may have anorexia, or they're not sure, or they're currently struggling with it, and, with anorexia or their personal goals? What would be your message to them?
Right. And really why I wasn't going to publish my books initially. And I had a sister-in-law who read them and was like, you have to do something with this. And I have a friend who's an editor who helped me with that process. But really my main goal was to show that you're not alone. There are other people who have these feelings, who thoughts, who get in this situation and find it hard to get themselves out of. And there are people who can help you. But just to reach out and make sure you're talking to someone about it and being honest. It was really scary for me to be honest once I had gotten myself into that, because I really did feel like I had done it to myself. So admitting that I couldn't handle something or couldn't control it was like giving up control, when I would really, what I was looking for was to control all my environment. But yeah, there are definitely, in America, there's the National Eating Disorder Hotline. I think in Australia, you have the number for that there too. You can always go to the Overeaters Anonymous website. They have meetings all the time. And I think that's a worldwide foundation or group, non-for-profit group. So it's really just, and that there is hope. It may feel hopeless when you're at the bottom, or just trying to struggle out or come out of that. But, little by little, day by day is really how you get better and feel better.
Yeah, of course. It's sort of like a step-by-step type of thing with this. Can I ask, do you think that COVID-19 has, impacted people who have body image issues? Do you think that COVID-19 may have played a part in that? Oh, my camera's going weird.
There's a lot of sun coming in your window.
It is. Can't block it out right now.
I think that, it's been really isolating. Even for people who have really healthy psyches, they're going crazy. So I think for people, and especially with body image things, if you're only, seeing somebody's head on a video call or a video chat, and it's really hard to keep a realistic view of weight and how people look. And it would be really easy to, at the same time, hide how you may look and what may be going on with your body. And it may be easy to think that you can fake it to, you can, like, people wouldn't see you or people wouldn't know. And that's what's really scary, because you could get into a place without really even knowing you're in that place. And it'd be harder for people to know that you were in that place. And they already say like only 25% of people with eating disorders seek help. So, I think that, just it's so isolating that I think people are having a harder time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Guys, if you are just tuning in now, I am speaking to Tricia, and we are talking about anorexia and her journey through anorexia. She is also an author and a businesswoman. And if you are struggling, if you think you may have anorexia, if you think you're not sure, there's the number on the screen right now for USA, the National Eating Disorders Helpline. You can also, if you are in Australia, you can contact the Butterfly Foundation. That is 1-800-334-637. And you can also go onto this website, which is overeatersanonymous.org. And you can also go to this website, which is nationaleatingdisorders.org. So I'm sure the information there is for, anybody anywhere. It's not just restricted to, certain countries only or anything like that. But if you feel like you do need any type of assistance, feel free to reach out. There is no shame, that there is no judgment. It is what it is. Don't feel like you should not or cannot reach out, because you deserve it. If you need help, you deserve it, and you owe it to yourself. You know what I mean? So don't feel ashamed. Where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you? So we've got Linktree. So that's wherever you are, that's where you are. I still love that line you said. So true. And we've got your website. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you personally, do you prefer them to send you an email? Is that on your website, or do you prefer Facebook or Instagram? Is there a preference that you have?
Yeah, probably Facebook or Instagram Messenger are the easiest ones. That'd be great.
Perfect. So got a Facebook on my screen, and this video will remain. So, at any time, just hop onto this video if you've missed the link. And guys, if you want to be a guest, all you have to do is send me an email, shalina@sedate.co. I'm on Facebook, obviously, Conversations with Shalina. I'm never hard to find, ever. And I'm also on YouTube and Instagram at Sedate or Sedate the Poet. So I've been speaking to Tricia Copeland today, anorexia survivor, author, and businesswoman. And I'm sure, are there any, can I ask, sneaky question, are there any more books in the works?
There are. I have, since I wrote my initial series on recovery from anorexia, I've gone full-fledged, not surprisingly, into the fantasy world. So now I write YA fantasy, YA dystopian stories. So I'm publishing a fairy story in like 4 weeks, the 26th of March. And then I'm working on the follow-up to that one. So that's a lot of fun. I like vampires, witches, all those fun characters.
Wow, I love that. So that will be coming out on the 26th of March?
Of March, yes.
Excellent. And you're going to have that on your website, on Facebook, on Instagram, so everybody can catch up with you as soon as it's out there. Oh, I'm very excited.
Yeah. It's funny because I just got on Linktree like a month ago, and my husband was like, nobody's going to click on that. Nobody knows what it is. It looks sketchy. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, it's okay. You're an engineer. Just stay over there.
I love that. Did he mean like the actual website itself? Is that what you meant when nobody was?
The Linktree link. You use Linktree, right? He's like, it's sketchy. I don't know what it is. Nobody's going to click on it. I'm like, oh, it's cool. Everybody's doing it.
I haven't got mine up and running yet, but it's so weird. As soon as you sent me your Linktree, I was like, what's Linktree? Why am I not on it? Who else is on it?
Yeah, it is so cool. Yeah, and so if you go to my Linktree, there's like 2 free short stories, and you can go to my Amazon author page or Wattpad. There's some free stories on Wattpad, so it's a lot of fun. I love Linktree. So. It's
all there. Wow, I think I need to get onto it. I haven't even started my Linktree yet, so
it's a challenge, Shalina. You need to do it.
You've set my task for today to get it going. It's been so amazing chatting with you about your journey and being so real and raw with your journey, and I think sometimes people might find it hard to speak out, and you're almost, to me, I feel like you've been the voice of the voiceless, speaking about these things, and I think that's really amazing. Is there any final words that you wanted to put out to the audience today?
Oh, that's a lot of pressure. Yeah, this has been a great experience. It's been fun getting to know you and talking to you. And I just hope that, if people are struggling, we'll talk to someone, because it is really scary. And I would have never thought that my brain could think that way. Like I said, I kind of started out dieting. It was no big deal. And then literally your brain reprograms itself so that you cannot mentally or physically make yourself do something different. And that's what's so scary about it is a disease, and that's what's so scary about it. So definitely get help.
Definitely. And I've got some, for anybody who's in Australia, I've got some national helplines on the screen. Men's referral line, men's line, the eating disorders, they do not discriminate against, gender, race, age, that there is no discrimination, and don't feel scared to reach out. There's also, if you are currently going through domestic violence and if you need help, you can call No to Violence, Relationships Australia, Lifeline, Kids Helpline. The numbers are on your screen. If you are in danger, please call 000 now. If you are in America, you would be calling 911. And just a disclaimer that today's conversation may have been, censoring or triggering in nature. And if you need to talk to somebody, feel free to reach out to the National Butterfly Foundation. If not, if you're in Australia, of course, and if you are overseas, if you are in America, please reach out to the National Eating Disorders Helpline. So anything that we've talked about today on the show, we're having a discussion. It's not to tell you what you should and should not do and how you should and should not feel. Each to their own. It's your own prerogative. But feel free to reach out to myself or Tricia if you want to have a chat. Feel free to reach out to any of the helplines. And these episodes are designed to promote discussion, but it is not to, replicate any professional support or advice. I just needed to put that out there. So please seek help wherever you are in the world. Please seek help, and that's why I'm so excited to have Tricia on the show just to talk about this. So thank you so much. We are never to find. We are right here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming on the show, and I'm sure I'll see you again. Totally going to have you on the show again for something totally different, something unexpected. Who knows? We keep it real and raw up in here.
We'll have a dance party next time.
Yes. Oh, we can do a book launch party.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Ooh. All right, I've got it planned. I've got it down pat now. So you guys, we will see you in the next episode. I'm Shalina Lodhia, and with me is
Tricia Copeland.
See you next time, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, or any critiques in the comment section. Until next time.